You open Instagram for 10 seconds. Someone's on a beach in Bali. Someone else just bought a house. A stranger from high school is holding car keys to something you couldn't afford in 5 years. You close the app. Your own bank balance suddenly feels smaller than it did a minute ago. But the real answer is far stranger. You're not actually reacting to money. You're reacting to something 300,000 years older than money itself. You've been taught that comparing your finances to others is a bad habit, a flaw, something to simply stop doing. But your brain isn't comparing bank accounts by accident. It's running an ancient program that once had nothing to do with money at all, and everything to do with survival. Psychologist Leon Festinger discovered something strange back in 1954. He proposed that humans have a built-in drive to evaluate themselves by comparing against others, not against some fixed internal standard. He called it social comparison theory. And here's the part that matters. Festinger found this drive gets stronger, not weaker, in situations of uncertainty. When you don't know exactly how you're doing, you look sideways instead of down at some absolute measure. Sound familiar? There's no universal scoreboard for money. No finish line that says you've won. So your brain does what it's always done. It looks at the people around you and calculates your position relative to theirs. Why would evolution build something so seemingly unhelpful? Because for most of human history, your position relative to others wasn't a minor detail. It was the difference between eating and not eating. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades studying the size of human social groups, and he found something remarkably consistent across history. Humans evolved to live in small bands, typically no more than about 150 people. Everyone knew everyone. Every meal, every hunt, every resource was visible to the entire group. There was no privacy around who had more and who had less. In a group, that small relative status wasn't vanity. It was information. If you had less than others, it might mean you were about to be pushed out, ignored, or left vulnerable when resources got scarce. If you had more, it might mean protection, alliances, mating opportunities, safety. Your brain evolved to track this constantly, automatically, without you ever deciding to. Now stretch that same wiring across a modern world of 8 billion people, an endless scrolling feed, and total strangers broadcasting their best moments every single day. Your ancient brain doesn't know the difference between your neighbor and an influencer on a yacht you'll never meet. It just sees another human, calculates their apparent resources, and quietly ranks you against them. Every time, evolutionary psychologist Jeffrey Miller has spent years studying why humans buy the things they buy, and his research points to something uncomfortable. Much of what looks like simple spending is actually signaling. A car isn't just transportation. A watch isn't just a clock. These are visible proof of resources, broadcast to everyone around you, the same way a peacock's tail broadcasts fitness to potential mates. Miller argues that much of modern consumer spending is, at its core, an ancient status display wearing a very expensive disguise. This is why a $40,000 car purchase can feel emotionally necessary, even when it makes no financial sense. It's not really about the car. It's about being seen having the car. And here's the twist that should really stop you. In your ancestral environment, this system worked. Status was local, visible, and earned through real relationships within a tribe of maybe 150 people you actually knew. If you gained status, everyone around you genuinely saw it, genuinely responded to it. The feedback loop made sense. Today, you're comparing yourself to a curated highlight reel from millions of strangers you'll never actually meet, most of whom are quietly in debt to afford whatever you just watched them show off. The comparison instinct fires exactly the same way it always has. But the input feeding it has become almost completely disconnected from reality. Your brain hasn't caught up to the fact that Instagram isn't a village of 150 people. It still treats every post like a real signal from someone in your actual tribe. So what do you do with an instinct this old, wired this deep, constantly getting fed by information it was never built to handle? You can't switch it off. Wanting to know your relative standing isn't a personality flaw you can simply decide away. It's closer to hunger or the fear of heights. Deeply built in and largely automatic, but you can change what you feed it. Some researchers studying happiness and social comparison have found something interesting. People who deliberately compare themselves to their own past, rather than to strangers online, report significantly higher satisfaction with their financial situation, even when their actual numbers haven't changed. The comparison instinct still fires. It just gets pointed at a fairer target, one you actually have real information about, one you can genuinely improve. There's also something in the size of your circle. Remember that number, 150. Some people find real relief in deliberately shrinking the pool of people they measure themselves against, back down towards something closer to that ancestral scale. Not strangers with filtered photos. A small group of people whose actual full financial picture you understand, not just the version they chose to broadcast. Because here's what almost never makes it into the comparison. The debt behind the vacation photo, the loan behind the car, the overtime hours behind the renovated kitchen. Your ancient brain assumes what it sees is the whole picture, the way it would have been in a small tribe where nothing stayed hidden. In the modern world, what you see is almost never the whole picture. You're comparing your full, complicated, financially textured life against everyone else's highlight reel. And your prehistoric wiring has no idea it's being fed a fake signal. So the next time you close an app and feel that small drop in your chest, that quiet sense that you're somehow behind, remember what's actually happening. You're not failing at money. You're not behind in some race that was never real to begin with. A 300,000-year-old radar is simply doing exactly what it always did, scanning the room for your place in the tribe. The tribe just got a lot bigger and a lot less honest. You open the app again. Someone's on a beach in Bali, but this time you know exactly what that old ancient part of your brain is actually doing. And for the first time, that quiet drop in your chest doesn't feel like the truth. It just feels like an old alarm going off in a world it was never built for.